don't know. I like the lion. Like I said, I like any stories where there's that element of the sort of noble animal, the sort of
Mm.
instincts that are not, because instincts are always sort of poo-pooed as like, oh, it's violence and sex, and they should be gotten rid of, but not all of them, the line, the noble instincts, that there are things that know the truth that can save us. There's intuition, and we have to sort of, like we were saying, get out of our intellect and kind of listen to those quieter voices inside of us to kind of find the way through. Otherwise, we do end up marrying the wrong bride and we get stuck in that shadow world like you're talking about. So there. I'll end it at that because that's a little more. I mean, if you have anything to say, I'm just saying for me, but that's at least a little more hopeful.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a nicer note to end on. But yeah, if you want, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the instinct. I think that's part of the reason we like these folk tales and myths. I mean, aren't they kind of telling us to kind of pay more attention to our instinct and to and why don't we? I mean, uh, I of
Hmm.
course think it's something like Vervaeke's answer where we do need rationality, but our definition of rationality has become narrow and narrow and narrower to where it's like this kind of superficial, highly computational kind of thing. Of course, computation ability, as Plato pointed out, and practice is helpful in rationality, but as Vervaeke points out, rationality is also sort of knowing where to look in the problem space and, not just crunching numbers, basically. And he and I agree, thinks that's kind of where we went wrong. We've banished the lion completely, the instincts. We don't trust the intuition. Um, yeah, it was just had like a family gathering few weeks ago, and one older family member had like she's kind of she knows kind of like folk beliefs and superstitions and things like that, and she had mentioned it to some more educated like family members, and they sort of like automatically like discounted that way of thinking.
Hmm.
And the automatic part is the part I really have a problem with. I mean, besides any social dynamics of not being kind or respectful or whatever, but just the automatic. Like I think that's not good. I think that's really unwise for you to be thinking in this particular kind of ratiocination or whatever you want to call it, this logical, narrowly logical way where you're discounting like automatically anything that reeks of spirit or spirits or intuition. You're making wrong decisions that way. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think the response that comes up for me kind of weaves through everything you've been saying from the beginning of like the way we've banished the lion to what Vervaeke's saying about um, rationality versus just computation or whatever labels you want to put on it, but that idea,
Yeah, yeah.
and then this family discussion that you're talking about as well, and the sort of wider social thing you're pointing at of the way we just shut down all of that stuff is like the the intellect or rationality or logic or whatever, those are skills that we have. They're part of being human, but I think we take them for like all of being human. And we miss a lot of other. It'd be like if you only ever lifted weights with one arm, and you did everything with one hand and you just kind of had the other one tied behind your back and you're like, no, I don't have a left arm. Like you could probably get by, but you're depriving yourself of being able to do things pretty easily, like you can't do any of that with one hand. I could try and juggle, but that's not going to really be as effective. And I think that I would agree with Vervaeke if I'm understanding correctly. I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but if I'm understanding correctly, I would agree that that's definitely where I think we went wrong as a society is this sort of like, well, it's only real if it's only valuable if we can prove it with repeated experimentation. And once it's been proven, we don't have to look at it again because we already know the truth. And so we know the truth, and so we don't have to examine anything about it ever again. Folk beliefs aren't provable, therefore they can't be true. And therefore we're safe to discount anything, any wisdom that might be in them. I think, I think clearly anybody listening to this podcast where we're picking apart fairy tales is appreciative of the truths that can be found in folk beliefs. But yeah, it just seems self I don't know, self-castrating, self-weakening, self
Yeah.
like in,
But it makes you feel stronger. You have a bigger ego. You can win arguments because that's part of the sort of milieu that we live in. That's the type of
mm,
speech that has more prestige. And it's not scientific to real science is we put something on a shelf, but we test it. We still test it. And eventually there'll be like a paradigm shift. This is like Kuhn's paradigm idea. Eventually there'll be a paradigm shift and we'll take that thing off the shelf and like we'll have to change it or discard most of it. It's not a truth anymore, not a
mhm,
scientific truth. And science
mhm.
is a process. It's not this, but yeah, this scientism or whatever it is, where it's this sort of this ideology that comes from some kind of scientistic worldview where it's, we live in a dead universe. There's no spirit, there's no matter, there's no minds, only brains. That's where
Mhm.
that sort of shutting down of folk beliefs or something comes from.
Yeah, yeah. I like that you tie it in with power because I think ego, power, domination of an argument. I
Yeah.
think to my mind, I think that's probably where it actually comes from.
Please like and subscribe for more of our open minded content and comment below on your thoughts or questions about the story. Let us know if you'd like us to cover another stimulating story, and thank you for participating.